Go.
Well,
I'll make a photo of that as well for your thumbnail if you want.
yeah, for sure. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you for sitting down with me to do this. It's definitely an honor for me to have someone with your stature in the community, uh, willing to sit down and give a new guy like me the ins and outs of Scarlet. So,
For sure, for sure. I'm happy to be here and definitely excited to share my knowledge, share my experiences throughout the community.
um, I really just wanted to start off by getting your opinion, or not necessarily your opinion, but your experience in joining the community and maybe why you did, like what age you were on, like whenever you started playing the game.
Uh, as many of us, especially since the game's been out for 12, 13 years, first started when it first came out. I think I was about 12, maybe 13. And I think as everyone kind of joins on that age, you just kind of, you're just a casual gamer, you just mess around exploring GTA as versatile as the game has now become. I think pretty much back then, I don't think there was even a game that kind of compared to it, at least around that point. A few other games, like Saints Row 2 was definitely up there with some of the stuff, some of the older games, but I think when I first entered into the MC community, I was 14 and I joined a club called Vagos, and they were kind of like a mixed match, kind of guys that you don't really, especially at that age, like a lot of people, especially on the game and in certain communities, they're very different. Mentality comes into it depending on what crew or club or whatever you're in. And for me to join in as a 14-year-old was definitely an eye-opener onto how clubs kind of run, and especially around that point, so about like 2014ish, Sons of Anarchy was definitely up there and still, relatively on the high run for a lot of clubs. Inspiration, like back in the old days of the community when it was still kind of out there and it was starting up, and we didn't have the bikers update back then. I think a lot of people kind of drew inspiration from that, but I think I was only in there for a few months until I'm pretty sure it just got shut down. And through that, I kind of seen the communities that are out there, Mafia, the military, the roleplay side of things, street crews, and it opened up this vast kind of variety of people that were playing this game and stuff like that. And I was in Mafias, I was in military crews, I was in this like government roleplay type thing for a few years. I did some police role plays and all that type of stuff, like growing up. And then ins and outs of a few of the bigger MCs that whoever might remember these back in the day when the community was kind of popping and there was a lot of activity. I would say like 2016ish, 17 going up to 18. Deadly Tribe, I was in for a few ones and stuff like that. I was in different small MCs, and then it was just a case of going on YouTube and find out about Striker MC. And I think from that point, I just kind of seen these guys joking, laughing, having a good time. And from that point, it was just such a change from the Mafia and the military and the role players, where everything is just on that serious edge. And even in these other MCs, it was just a case of serious, this, and kind of like swinging their weight around. And I saw these guys goofing around, and that just kind of was a game changer in my eyes. And the first time, I say first time, I'll share this. a lot of people in the community who know me and strikers, there's a vast majority of people who just think of us as clowns or not dedicated and stuff like that, and that's fine. We don't mind, because we know what our club is and we know what we stand for and all this. But like, for me, I think I first tried to join strikers when I was 16, I think.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah, I mean, I made it to Prospect back then. As a lot of other clubs kind of ran, it wasn't a long process. It was a month max, and that was depending on whether clubs did support or hang around or prospect, that type of thing. And yeah, I was in prospecting, and then some stuff I won't disclose happened, and I ended up getting kicked out. But the reason was good. And then from that point, I did go back to being a tryhard. I was a tryhard. Majority of it, the thing was obviously, like, my first taster for organised crews was 14, and then having that 2 year, go into that 3 year span of, seeing how other crews worked and operated. And with the militaries, they're all hierarchy, they're all rank, they're all, they role play as much as they do anything else, because you have to. With the military, there's just so many ranks, and
Right.
a lot of people do things differently. You got mercenaries, you got militaries, you got even some people going to the extent of, like, different type of militaries. You go from the US to the Chinese, or the Guatemalan, or whatever type of military. People do things differently, and go from that, and then go into being a tryhard, and then go into the mafia, which actually where my name originates from. So just to give you, like, that background on it.
Okay, that's a
so
good
Scarlet.
spot. Pause. I need to. You were about to start talking about your name. I need to freaking make sure that I'm set on busy, so I stop getting invites from people. Of course, I forgot to do that. My apologies. Busy will do that, right? To where you can't get notifications. I hope.
Yeah.
So I keep getting invited to games. But all right.
You won't get those in the footage anyway.
Okay.
If they're on PlayStation.
Okay, well then awesome. Yeah, continue, my apologies.
Well, good. So yeah, my name, so my old gamer tags, as a lot of people imagine, people create different accounts all the time for different things, whether they be like their first ever account they made, and everyone names themselves something silly or something funny or anything like that, or just, a lot of people even just use their name with like a couple of numbers thrown in the mix.
Right.
So I've had, a few accounts over the years of my time on console, and my old gamer tag was father_Scarlet, which a lot of the older members in the community will probably remember, depending on how long the club's been there, how long they've kind of known strikers or myself and stuff like that. And that was like in the mafia lingo, he was the godfather, and then the underboss of the Scarlet crime family. And obviously when I took the account, I just kind of, I didn't bother to change it. I just kind of like ran it as just my own account, and there was nothing to do with anything else really. And then I joined, and everyone knew me as that. And then, because as soon as you get a name, as soon as you get kind of something that everyone kind of knows you by, there's no point in changing it, because that's what people know you as.
Unless you're a pussy, in my opinion. I'll say that.
Exactly, yeah. Like, people always change their names to
run from that name.
Yeah, like, a lot of people nowadays, they try and go for something demonic, or something that's like themed around the Halloween, or like it's always something like
that makes them seem mysterious and hardcore.
Yeah. and obviously, like, I've had this throughout the community. People always say, because obviously Striker MC, we're known for talking shit. We're known for just kind of giving it back and all this type of thing. And a lot of the time, people just come back and they're like, Scarlet, that's a girl's name. And I'm like, oh mate, like it's so weak that you would say that. But yeah, the origin of the Scarlet name is yeah, just from the Matthew community, which I think is quite a good thing, just because I feel like the more people kind of go through the communities and see different ways and see different people at different levels of, you know, their versatility of different paths they've chosen within to play this game, because it all comes with a mindset. And if you be in those different communities, then you should know that there's always going to be someone else, there's always going to be someone bigger, there's always going to be another crew doing better, there's always going to be, you know, someone up, which is you know, a lesson. I think a lot of these newer clubs, maybe some of these older clubs or whoever you may be, there's always going to be someone better, there's always going to be someone who is got more members, or a lot of the time nowadays is better shooting, or got more clout, or got more connections, or people like more, or there's always going to be something more. So I kind of kept the name as just kind of like a reminder, as well as obviously people knowing me. But yeah, to go back to my experiences, yeah, I got kicked out of Strikers. I went to be a tryhard for a couple of months, and then one of our members, T-Bane, I seen in a lobby, and you know, we were just texting over the game, you know, how you doing, how this, how that, because it wasn't necessarily, you know, I left on bad blood or, you know, anything like that. It was just, you know, kind of a mishap and stuff, you know. It was justified, but there was no beef. And he said, do you want to try again? And I was like, oh sure, you know, like, because I still watched them on YouTube, and I still, you know, I was still following on their social medias, and I was keeping up to date. And because I mean, as soon as you, and I think you can agree as well, as soon as you find a club that just fits, as soon as you find, you know, a place where everything just kind of makes sense, and you know that like you can do better there, and you can, you know, really get it off the ground, or you can implement these ideas, you can do a lot, and as soon as you find that place, there's not really anywhere else that is better than that. So, you know, as soon as he said to me, do you want to come back, you know, I hopped to the opportunity, and I accepted the invite, and I'm pretty sure maybe 7 minutes later I was kicked out again.
How did that? What went on with that? If you don't mind saying.
I remember. I remember we were. I was parked outside. You know. We got back onto my MC clothing, and I was like, oh, you know, second chances. You know, they're always there. And all of a sudden, that message popped up on my screen. You have been kicked, and I was like, right, okay, what's happened?
That was quick.
And yeah. I haven't even said hello yet to the rest of the guys, but
right.
There was this, you know, there was a few of concerns and mixed opinions, and one of the main reasons was, if you know me, I'm not afraid of kind of like being outside the norm of the traditional biker, especially with Striker MC. You know, when it comes to the light up shoes or the no ankles, I'm definitely one of those ones who take part in that. And I'm pretty sure at the time, I think I was just wearing pink for some reason. I can't remember what it was. And yeah, one of the guys, I think, was just like, I don't like him, I don't do, and he's wearing pink. And I think at that point he was just, yeah, he just had enough of me. And I was like, right, okay. And then literally, I think, you know, as soon as it happened, T-Bane had texted me again and saying, you know, like, you know, sorry for the mishap, I thought people were this and this and this, and then it, you know, it turned out, and left it a couple of days, and then I actually did reach out again, and I said, hey, you know, I know what's just happened, but is there any chance of me coming back? Because again, you know, it just comes down to one of those things of, as soon as you find something, like, that's all you want to be a part of.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and then I joined back, and I think it took me, it took a long time ago. I'm pretty sure it took me about 12 weeks ish around. maybe less, maybe more around that time period of really proving that I wanted to be there, and then I was patched in, and from that point, I've seen, and to be fair, I'm thankful for Striker MC. I think a lot of people don't really realise is that when you've been a part of an MC for so long, or when an MC's been, when a club has been up for so long, and especially through these different, let's call them seasons of the community, where, at one point, you couldn't join a lobby without there being, 4 or 5 clubs in there, to the point
Right.
where, at least nowadays, you join a lobby and you don't see any, or you see one, or
Yeah.
and I
can
think
vouch for
it's
that,
good.
for
It was definitely good timing for me to join in that community, to teach me, a whole bunch of stuff to do with the community, and I'm thankful for Striker MC for giving me this chance of joining, and really just giving me something to do. I think a lot of the time, people kind of view things as a joke and a laugh, but as soon as you get to that point where you want the people around you to enjoy their time on the game and have their hobbies kind of flourish and stuff like that, then, because with Striker MC, we're all about brotherhood. Every single one of us, we consider ourselves, so close, that, every single day, we're making sure that our club, our organisation, our brothers, everything is going well. Just because, especially as some of the stories I've told you, a lot of clubs do not like us. They have spent, their time, whether it be, personal time, work time, any time, to respond to us, to shoot us,
Right.
to make up any type of, lie or anything like that, and I feel like with Striker MC, it's just all brushed off, and as long as we're good and as long as the people around us are good, then we really don't care about anything, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, to start on that type of journey and then go through those stages of being different officer positions, and then to the point where I am now, I mean, I can't complain. I've been here for over 7 years now, so
That's crazy. It's such a
yeah.
coming through my experience of joining the community. To me, that's insane because, yeah, Martyrs was a great way for me to get all of that type of stuff that you mentioned. But at first, it was really rocky, and the club at the time was filled with people that did change their name. They were trying to get away from certain reputations that they set for themselves within the community, knowing damn well that they were the ones that did it. So to run into a club and start to associate with a club that is filled with so many people that have lots and lots of years within the same club is mind blowing to me. I get the sense from all the dudes in our crew now that that'll be a thing, but at first it did not seem like it at all. I was like, do I even want to do this? I only joined because I wanted to have a good group of friends to always do stuff in the game with, because the game gets really boring if you don't have a group of friends to do stuff with, as far as heists, shooting, anything, jobs, all that stuff. It gets really boring.
Yeah, and I do agree. Like I said, the game's been out for such a long time, and I feel like it's only natural for members of different crews, because I keep saying that just because there's so many different people out there, and a lot of the time we don't even realize everyone's so focused on if you're in a club, it's the MC community. But I feel like there's all other communities out there with their own beefs, their own alliances, they're all friends and whatever else. But I think it's only natural that people go into something and maybe it's it gets boring, they give up. Maybe it gets to the point where they're stressed, they give up. It gets to a point where they meet different friends and they want to go with them, and it's only natural for these shaky things to kind of happen. But I think a lot of people, especially in these other crews, and other clubs, if they've stayed together, even if they, 'cause I feel as if a lot of the clubs nowadays have kind of gone to the 5M side of things. They've gone to PC and
Yeah, I see
stuff.
that
So
a lot.
we're not really, like in tune with those. But I feel like if those members, if those friends and all this now can stick it out and be there for years, then that's the best possible outcome. Because again, a lot of these people, a lot of these, these shooters, these people who want to swing their weight round, these people who, you know, maybe they're kids, maybe they're just people who get on the game and they want to mess around, or they don't take things serious, or whatever else like that. Like those types of crew hoppers, people who can't commit to something. I mean, eventually, they make a name for themselves, and then to possibly smaller clubs to make it to bigger clubs, to make it to these clubs who have been around a long time, and eventually, like no one's going to want them there. So I think it's a very, very big thing that if you have the commitment, then you stay dedicated. Because even as every club goes, every club has issues. Striker MC, we've had issues.
For sure.
Especially we've been up for 10 years now.
Yeah,
Over 10
I would say
years.
you guys have ran into your hiccups a time or two.
Yeah, and like there's been times that even myself, I've been thinking, oh, do you know what, like, are we gonna make it through this? Are we gonna be the same club? Are we gonna come back from it? Are we gonna make sure that everything's good? And we have. There's never been a point where Striker MC have, where a lot of clubs, we've never been, we'll shut down, we'll rebrand, we'll go away for a couple of months and then come back and act like we've always been here. We've always been, we've never done anything like that. Where I feel like a lot of other clubs do that, and it's just this, in my opinion, it's just a bit weird. Like
It is to me too, big time.
I don't get
Speaks to
how
the lack of commitment.
Yeah, and it's Striker MC. We've always been here. We've always been active. You can never really find someone in Striker MC that will say, yeah, the club closed down, or the club took a break, or the club this, or the club, because we don't do that. We're
I get the
dedicated
vibe
guys.
from you guys that it's more so like over my dead body type shit, and that's
Yeah,
I feel like why I've gravitated towards you all more than any other club that I've met, and I've met a lot of them. So
I think the best thing, to be honest, to do with that commitment level is the fact of you just stay true to what your morals are. You don't try to impress anyone. You don't try and change something. You don't try and bend the rules or anything like that. Like we've had changes, as obviously with the updates coming, the progression and keeping up to date with things. Obviously, we're not going to keep to the old rules of back in the day where there was no Oppressors Mark II and tanks that took like 20 RPGs to blow up, and we've had to adapt.
yeah, I've never had that experience.
Yeah,
Like I
like
told you,
we've
I started in the community or in the game just itself less than 2 years ago, so I've always had all of that nonsense.
exactly. I think like for us, we've pretty much stayed the same base club since the first initial Notorious Six had come in and done what they did and stuff like that. That's a whole other history lesson. But we've pretty much stayed the same club, and we haven't broken any of our morals. We haven't done anything that's not been club voted. Everything we do, we make sure that is not out of anger and it's not out of spite, and it's it's making sure that everyone in the club, all of our brothers, know what's happening, and we give everyone their vote, their right to make sure they have their opinion and their views and everything like that. And I think a lot of people, with that, staying on that like type of commitment level, maybe clubs just don't give that anymore. Maybe a lot of the clubs, they this hierarchy, this hierarchy, that, and people won't stay committed to that because they ain't gonna be heard.
Right.
Like it's
I
a
feel like
bad
that the
show.
worst,
I think.
Yeah, I feel like that the worst possible thing is to have the higher ups in the club have egos, especially within the club. That's something that I've experienced myself, is Like they want to be the only voice that's heard, and that's why I try to. Since I took over the reins of Martyrs, I tried to keep in mind all of the things that I hated when it came to that, and then do the exact opposite. You know, I try to make sure everybody's comfortable and they can be themselves. Obviously, we want a certain amount of structure and we expect certain things, but at the end of the day, it's a game that we all jump on and try to have fun with people that we have things in common with, and that's the way that I want it to be. And if it's not that way, I'm done. You know, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of people take that for granted, to be honest. You know, like I said, I've been in loads of different communities, and you know, they definitely don't run the same as MCs do, especially, well, how an MC is supposed to be ran.
Right.
They
Yeah.
do not do that, you know. Like, a lot of clubs, they go by hierarchy, you know, does everything. Hierarchy is the ultimate for a lot of people, you know, the decision makers and stuff like that. And it always just kind of reminds me the people ain't gonna stay loyal to that. People, you know, people
Definitely
get on
not.
the game to relax. People get on the game to hang out with their friends. Why would you want to, you know, people go to work and have their manager back in orders, or, you know, you got to keep up with this, you got to keep up with that.
Exactly.
Why would you get on the game and do it?
This
Like,
is
it
the
doesn't
place we're
make
trying
sense.
to, for some time during the day or the week, escape that type of stuff. So,
Exactly. And yeah, a lot of clubs nowadays, I feel like they just don't understand the fact, you know, maybe they're younger, or even the older guys,
yeah, true.
you know, a lot of people just don't
Maturity, I think,
understand
for
that.
sure, is the biggest key.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That doesn't necessarily equate to age. I've noticed that myself. 'Cause it's like some of the bigger, well-known clubs that I have ran into will have members that are, you know, around my age, 30, something like that, and they've been in the game for a long time, and they still have that mentality of always trying to be the top dog no matter what, and like if you don't listen to what they have to say at the drop of a hat, then you're the issue, and like, yeah, that shit gets ridiculous.
It gets old. And, you know, like, it kills clubs, it kills the vibe, it kills relationships, it kills, you know, events, and
Yeah.
it's just not good.
Yeah, it makes
Like, having
it.
that type of mentality, especially this long into the game, it's just not needed. You know, a lot of people, I feel like, especially to go into the side of the community and how people kind of run and think. You know, back in the day, the worst thing that could happen to you in the MC community was your patch being ripped. You know,
Right.
if you got stabbed in a lobby, especially, you know, when people were younger, and, you know, the community was popping,
Right.
and it was fun, and it was, you know, regardless of whether you had like 10 guys or 10 different clubs trying to shoot you, you know, that stuff was fun. Everyone understood the rules. You know, there was no blowing up, there was no, you know, there was no sniping, there was no atomizing off bikes, or, you know, there was nothing like that. It was fun. And back in the day, like, if you saw someone running at you with a knife, you're screaming trying not to get stabbed.
That makes it fun to an extent, for sure.
It was fun. It was the days of when parkour was your friend, where you were running for, you know, if you were getting that shot on him, you were running.
Right.
But, you know, again, the game is 13 years old, and the community, you know, is not what it used to be. And a lot of these guys, you know, myself included, we've been here a long time. You know, we've been doing the same community. You know, we see the same type of clubs pop up and close down, and pop up and close down. And, you know, 7 years I've been doing this. You know, if you're counting only my striker time, 7 years. No one, you know, nowadays no one cares if you get stabbed. I still see it on social media.
Yeah, I definitely don't myself.
You know, like graving, or, you know, I've graved this club, I've stabbed him, I've ripped your patch, and it's like, mate, you know, 13 years down the line, and you start to not care. But, you know, these kids come in, these even adults come in, you know, like you said, you know, there's people that are, you know, at that stage in life where you need to get a mortgage, where you've got kids, where you've
For
and
sure.
you're running around trying to stab people and thinking you know, I've just stabbed someone, their club needs to close down.
Hmm.
It's just a bit weird now. You know, like
It is.
maybe you know on 6 it would be, you know, it'll all start back up and it'll be
Right.
fun again, and you know people will start freaking out if you try and stab them, or you know, depending on what the GTA 6 stuff is, if we've talked about before in parties, you know, like if they do like a Red Dead thing, and you know, you get tied up and they try and
Yeah.
feed you to an alligator, you know, that'll be
I
the
would like to
fun
see
part.
that.
Yeah, but on 5, I think a lot of people just need to realize this game is dying. It's dead already.
Oh yeah.
No one cares, you know, like
Yeah, we're definitely getting blood from a turnip right now. Trying to.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, whenever I came into the community, it was only 2 years ago. The game was even dead then. Like whenever I came into just online itself, it was just nothing but chaos. Like every single time you join a session, you got like 17 people trying to kill you immediately, you know, which is like, I get that some people get on the game to let off some steam, and it makes it a little bit more interesting, and it makes it a little more of a chance and exhilarating to kill other people in the game, you know, like not just go in and mess up a bunch of NPC cops or whatever. I get that, but whenever it's so overwhelming to the point to where you can tell that everybody's just bored, it's hard to get into the swing of anything, especially trying to make friends to do stuff in the game with. And then 9 times out of 10, anybody who's going to be an actual asset to missions or heists or anything like that, they don't like doing any of that stuff anymore because they've done it for so long. So it does make
yeah,
it,
yeah.
the game being so old makes it, in my opinion, in my experience, I feel like, I can't speak for anyone else, even you for sure, but it makes it so difficult to get into the swing of any kind of community for sure, because I didn't ever, like, whenever I first heard about the community, it was because Augur, the other founder of Martyrs, hit me up in a session, and I had just got done trying to sell my product for one of my businesses, and somebody blew me up. And then I shit you not, 5 minutes later, Augur messaged me in the session, I guess. I think he seen me in the session or whatever, and asked, "Yo, you want to join a crew? It's a good way to make money and stuff in the game, and always have someone to play with." And I was just like, I never thought that I would want to join any of the like crews that I'd seen in the game prior to that, but I was like, screw it, I'm gonna try it out, and I'm glad that I did. Yeah, the first little while was really rocky for sure because of some of the people that were in higher ups in the club, but I'm super glad that I stuck it out because I have some of the best friends that I've ever had in life, and I mean that, like in the club, like people that I know always have my back, and I know for a fact that I would have their back. So it's very,
Yeah.
it's nice
It's
to push through all that type of thing, but a lot of people don't do that, and I feel like that the game is super toxic because of it.
yeah, you know, a lot of people will die on this hill of being, you know, quote unquote, the most notorious MC or the
Yeah,
biggest MC or the most feared MC, and it's like, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, going through the history of MCs and what MCs were supposed to be, and you know, like I feel like people don't really understand, you know, like even MCs in real life, you know, they're so close knit, you know, they are brothers, and you know, it's they ride or dies, you know. Once you're in and you found an MC, you know, there's not really getting out. A
right,
lot of people just kind of view this as, you know, a game, or you know, like, oh, it's just a bunch of people from over the seas, or you know, different state, or
right.
but I mean, to others, again, you know, having, and I will, you know, I'll say this, you know, till till I'm blue in the face. 10 years of doing this and having a club up, since the beginning, basically, when things were really picking up and stuff like that, and yeah, those types of connections, those type of brothers, those types of friends and close friends, like, it does make it easier. If you can't kind of like talk to your friends in real life, you don't really want to get into it with people that could kind of be there in person and judge you, or cut you up, or have that type of influence. Or you're getting on the game and you're talking to these guys and you're seeing these experiences and you're talking to them. And definitely, myself being from the UK, talking to people from all over the world, especially in America, the whole different type of cultures and experiences, the lives that you come across, and it's only beneficial towards your own. Like, you make these connections with these guys you never thought, and it just brings a whole different level to wanting to get on the game, regardless, whether it's GTA or whether it's a different game altogether. You get on with your guys, and you just know it's a fun time. Like, know that you just go and enjoy the time that you have. And I think a lot of other people, they don't really have that. And to be fair, like, I would go to the extent of feeling sorry for a lot of other clubs that think it's not that it's not that deep, or like, it's not that big of a deal, because they don't they clearly haven't got the connections, they don't have the friendship and the bonds that other people have. And it's just kind of sad that you get on the game and you're so committed to an organization or something that's that you want to make your own, or want it to do good or anything like that, and you don't even like the people that you're doing it with. Like, it doesn't really make sense.
I myself never understood that. Like, I get the mentality of wanting to be a part of something bigger than yourself, for sure. I think that most people feel that in some way or another, but it's like I was saying, this is the opportunity for a lot of us to get away from that type of thing in our regular lives, and for me, it's definitely centered around just trying to, like you said, jump into a party, and I know it's going to be fun. Like, we're going to have a blast, and nobody's going to take stuff too seriously or try to like talk down to anyone more specifically, because I'm not that type of person. Like, if you want to talk down to me, you don't want to talk to me. So.
Yeah, and being in the community for so long, you come across, and I'm thinking of all these different types of stories and stuff where these, the seriousness of people come out, and this commitment that they say that they have come out, and it takes a whole to a different level. I talk more towards like the older people in the community. There's so many stories where people have like had complete crash outs over the smallest of things, and then left that club that they've had a crash out, like 3 days later, and it's like, mate,
I've seen it myself.
Like, get a grip. Like,
we had a guy in the club once that completely lost it on, I can't even remember if it was just the underpatch or just a full patch, but somebody got on his bike and he lost it, bro. And he realized how embarrassing that it was for him to act that way, and all the way from that point it just was sketchy with him, and then he eventually ended up leaving the club. And I really do feel like that it was because of that one time. Like, it would have happened in another way, in a different setting for sure, but it was that interaction with him and that other person in the crew that ended up making everything go downhill. And that's such a small thing. Like, I get it that some people are super protective of their bike and they don't want people messing with it or whatever, but dude, all he did was get on it, and he's like, "Why'd you get off my bike? What are you?" He's freaking out about something so small and silly.
Yeah. we've
Like for one,
I'm
lock
sure
it to where no one can get on it if it's that much of a deal for you.
yeah, yeah, we've had many encounters where, because as anyone know, and especially you would know, SMC was so nonchalant, and we're there to have a joke, and we're having a laugh, and we're having a good time, and people, I'm sure the SMC, definitely have other stories they can tell, but like some notable ones, I remember we went to. This was a good couple of years ago. I can't remember whose event we were at, but I remember we're all guilty of it, in an event, and an NPC just decides to cut you up and you crash, and you have to get back on your bike and
Yeah, and you're the only one. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Even though everyone's had it happen to them,
Exactly. And I remember it happened to me, and I'm a big fan of the gargoyle and the cliffhanger. I like to speed round and stuff like that. I'm very much A to B type person when it comes to driving.
Yeah.
And I was riding, and obviously this NPC had cut me off and crashed my body between. We were on the highway coming towards the highway coming towards the casino, and he had crushed me between the barrier or whatever, and I got back on my bike and I started speeding back up to the pack.
Yeah.
And all I did was because obviously it goes. Obviously everyone who's probably going to watch this being to an event, it goes club. You don't really mix and match and stuff like that,
Yeah.
And strikers, we were in front of this other club. Maybe I shouldn't name them just in case a few of their members decide to dust off their controllers and come back and whatever.
It'll probably happen with 6 for sure. So
yeah. Remember that one time when you outed me on a podcast? Like, no, I don't, to be honest. All right. Add another one to the list.
Right.
And I had, instead of going on the outside, I had just gone through the middle, because there was only 4 or 5 guys, and strikers, we were there with 7 guys, so we were like whatever, and I had come through the middle not thinking it's that big of a deal, because I was just trying to get back to where I was in the ride. Continued, the event was fine, everything was done and dusted, and then I'm pretty sure someone in strikers had got a message saying,
"Oh wow,
that was disrespectful." And we were like, "What was disrespectful?" He goes, "Scarlet splitting the ride." We were like, "What are you on about? What? Yeah, what are you on about, you crazy person?"
Like you've never had an NPC go super hard on you in the session before,
yeah,
it happens all the time.
You've not had that one Mini Cooper just took it out 29 people, and I was like, oh my god, is this guy for real? And no
the worst
joke,
part is he probably was for real.
he was mad. He was mad in those he was dead serious, and I'm telling you, this guy had crashed out so bad, it started beef, it started a battle between us and this other club, and I was like, all of this beef, all of this shit talk and whatever, for what reason? Because a guy had caught up, just gone in between instead of on the outside, and people just take things way too serious, and it's it's that balance between, you can have that commitment and brotherhood for the club for sure, you don't want people stepping on your toes or go territory or whatever. But at the end of the day, we all got to remember, it is still a game, and when it comes to that is the part when it's a game. No one cares, bro. We've had people, start beef with us because we've been in their territory. We've had people start beef because, we've been, again, with the outfits, everyone rocks their colours. Depending whether you have a colour or not, or depending, a lot of people, they're black and white or whatever, so hard for you to, not rock black or white in this game.
True.
People, you know, like if someone's wore like orange sunglasses, and people, you can't be repping our colours, it's like, what? Like, you've got to be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
You've got to be a crazy person for you to start beef with another club for no reason, like, at all. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, like speaking of territories and stuff, I'll say these guys because I mean, these guys, a lot of the older people will probably remember them, and they're definitely probably going to come back on 6 anyway, and they're the type of club to say, you know, we've been here all the time and whatever. But I go with territories, you know, I respect it. I think everyone needs to defend their territory. You know, it's only respectful to other clubs. It shows respect. You know, it's a huge thing. You know, a lot of people nowadays have the Los Santos bottom rocker.
Right.
You know, strikers, we've been having that rocker for, I think, oh well, probably have to get one of the SMCs to back me up on some of the dates. I'm not too good with dates, but it's been over 4 years for definite, right?
I'm right.
Maybe even 5 at this point. Been here for so long, you just kind of all merges into one. And you know, like a lot of people have that bottom rocker, and you know, we've been hit up and we've messaged other people and just showing that type of respect and stuff like that. As you could probably imagine, you know, people kind of move into your territory, regardless of your bottom rocker, your clubhouse is always based somewhere. So
Right.
your guys is in Pillbox Hill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, you know, if just to show that respect, if another club came through and was like, oh well, actually, you know, matters are now established, you know, people will know who they are, you know, I know who they are, blah blah blah. I want to start an MC, or I want to start up a charter or anything like that, but I want to go in Pillbox. It's only respectful to hit you guys up and say, you know, just letting you know, it's a friendly heads up, and you know, fine, respectful. I feel like the territory with certain MCs though, they are taking it to that next level, right? And this club, Santos, right? Santos were, you know, props where props deserve. They were, you know, they were kind of like the hot topic at one point. A lot of people liked them, a lot of people didn't like them. You know, at the beginning we were fine and all this and that, and kind of, you know, stuff happened and whatever else. You know, there was nothing like a real big, you know, like, you know, cut deep type beef or anything like that. You know, there's just a few issues that needed to be sorted out. There's a few things we didn't like, there was a few things they didn't like, and whatever else. I won't get into it, I won't really go into detail, but to go on a territory basis, a little history lesson again. So we were in Easterless, so we had a charter open in Easterless, and PB in Palito Bay, and you know, and then we merged into Los Santos, and then, you know, we just kind of thought it was a better idea and stuff like that. Santos came about, and they were like, what was it? They had this like little catchphrase that they used to say, and you know, it was always like something like, we started the East, or we brought up in the East, or something like that. But they took their territory thing like a weird type of level where I know in the community people, regardless, you know, like with Strike MC, whether we shot at them or friendly, we all kind of had like the same idea of these guys are taking it a bit too far. So they said, you know, they started in the Easterless, they made the Easterless, which is not true, because again, Striker MC, and I'm sure that other clubs were also in Easterless way before they were even a thing. So they didn't do that, just to make, you know, for the record, if one of their members do that, you didn't. So
they probably know with themselves, they just like to be
they definitely know. They were like this, you know, they tried to be fair, they were really on the roleplay aspect, you know, but you know, they were role playing this like a Hispanic Latino type aesthetic of their crew and stuff like that, you know, which is cool, you know, like definitely, you know, get into the roleplay
like
stuff,
that,
get into the immersion, and you know, but it's a bit difficult when, you know, a couple of their guys are talking with Scouse accents, And if you're from the UK, you know that's the furthest thing away
Yeah.
from
A Hispanic person.
You know, yeah, exactly. I get it with the role play side of things for sure. Do your thing. Just don't talk. It ruins it. It absolutely ruins it.
Or work on your Mexican accent, if you will.
Yeah, you gotta go into some lessons and definitely get it on there. But they were like, yeah, East to West, and we were like, okay, well, whatever, you can have your say and whatever, we don't care, whatever. Like, everyone in the community knows you guys didn't start it, so fine. But they went to the extent they made like this public announcement. You might be able to still find it if you look up their Instagram page, but I wouldn't recommend it because it's just the same as every other clubs. I would recommend you looking up Marta's Instagram and definitely Striker MC's Instagram and following them. But they made this public announcement saying we own the East LS, and they like coloured in this bit, and it included the casino, and they wanted people to message them asking their permission to go to the casino, and it was like, what are you on about?
Was this at the time where no one could go into invite-only lobbies?
Yeah, this was the time where
gnarly, bro.
Yeah, this was the time when like you couldn't like sell stuff in public in invites and stuff like that, and obviously like this didn't like it bled out into just games. Like I heard stories that they were like just normal players, like random, like no crew, like no affiliation, like nothing, just random people were going to the casino, and they would go over and shoot them, and it was like, you guys are taking this whole territory thing, this whole thing to the next level, and it is so unnecessary. Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, yeah, this whole public announcement thing, like, I spoke to other clubs at the time, and they were like, I don't know who they think they are, type vibe. Like the casino is for the game, like for randoms, for clubs, for whoever is playing this game.
Yeah, everybody.
Like, I'm not going to ask your permission to go into the casino. Like, what are you on about? Like,
normally
I'm
a
not
casino
gonna do
would be like neutral ground for clubs too, though. So
yeah, exactly. Like the casino is neutral ground, and it's because everyone. It's just like people use it as like a hangout spot or like a fun thing to do or pass the time or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, these guys just took it to like the whole other level of you need to have my permission to go to the casino. And
right. If I can own an apartment inside of the building, then it's not off limits, bro.
Exactly. Like, that's like someone turning around and saying, you need my permission to go into the entire north side of the map. Like, what are you on about? What do you mean? Like,
yeah, we're based in Los Santos for sure, but one of my favorite places to ride is out 68 and stuff, so.
I could never imagine receiving a text message on the game saying, I didn't give you permission to go there.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know who you're talking to, honestly. You must have sent it to the wrong guy. Especially in Striker MC, we would have... I'm praying that happens, because that would be a funny altercation. That would have been a funny thing to get into.
Yeah, I can
these
imagine.
Clubs and stuff, they take things to these different levels, and it was like it was craziness, like territory bagging, but to the next level. That's, people were calling it cringy. People, it's just a bit strange, and it's weird, and it's
way too much.
Yeah, like don't do that. Like, to any people,
like, they're not even having fun at that point. I don't care what they say.
No, like if we ever decide that we want to, like, tell people you can't go to this place, and I'm in a session with a couple of the guys, I could not be asked continuously going to that one player who was like put their toes in my territory or without my permission, and I know
yeah,
it doesn't work like that. Like, obviously, if it's yeah, like at the moment, like we're in Del Pero, and or Del Perro, whatever you want to call it. And you know, again, it goes back to the friendly heads up, showing respect and stuff like that. And people have done it, and it creates a good start off relationship when people do it. But if a random comes through or he spawns in or something like that doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna make sure he leaves the lobby because he had stepped foot in my territory. This random level 13 player, like, it doesn't. It's just to that point where certain clubs, you just need to get grounded. You just need to know where you fit in and how you want to do things, how you want to conduct yourselves. Because regardless of what MC you're in or what style of MC you're in, people talk. And if you're known as the weird MC, people ain't gonna want to hang around you. It's a simple fact. Like, if you're doing something that's weird, people are not gonna want to chill out with you.
Yeah, most people may not think that that's a big deal, and maybe it isn't to some people, but one of the biggest aspects that I enjoy about the community is being able to link up with other clubs to do events and introduce more people than just what's in the crew to certain situations is one of the funnest things for me, especially having done some events with you guys and stuff. It makes it adds that extra dynamic to the game that wouldn't be there otherwise. Like, if you didn't try to keep things like that in mind, that you're turning everyone else off into the community to hanging out with you or trying to associate with you at all.
Yeah, events, I feel like, personally, I don't really think the other people really do events. I think the military kind of dips in and out of air shows. I think they kind of do that thing. I don't think mafias do anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think
not that I've ever heard.
Yeah, I think the street gangs, they kind of do their little things with whether it be drag races or meetups in certain parts of the map. But I think the MC community has got to be the one community where, to be fair, events have always been a thing, and a lot of people have made a name for what they've done in the community, and events being one of the biggest things that people can do, because everyone's kind of invited. Obviously not everyone, but it's kind of one of those things where if you get an invitation, it's bring as many as you can. We're having a good time. And I think the MC community really thrives on that type of aspect, where it's just a good time, and especially if it's done well. I've been to some events. I won't name them. I've been to some events and they've been awful. They've been, unorganized. They've been just kind of this one big cluster of different things, and it doesn't really kind of flow with anything. And then it's, I think it's kind of a tradition that people have a playlist at the end of it. It's kind of, do everything in game, do your rides and your bike car competitions, your outfit competitions, or go to special locations, significant locations and stuff like that. Kind of give a history tour. A lot of people kind of get into that. We did that for our 10-year. We kind of we went to different locations to talk about.
That was the best event that I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Because I love the way that you guys took us to each little place that was special to you guys, and places that you had been throughout your tenure in the community. I mean, you guys have been a club for a long time. When you all started, you didn't have the clubhouses that everybody has now and stuff, so you guys made do with what you had. It was very awesome maybe it's not everybody's thing to participate in that type of thing, but a lot of the stuff that you said specifically was this is exactly why I've pushed to try to get to this position, to be able to go to events with other clubs, is because I love hearing stuff like that. That's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do the podcast and the communities, just to get people's experiences. And like you were saying earlier, I never dreamed in a million years that I would be kicking it and having a really good conversation with somebody from Wales, you know, like hate to
Yeah,
not ask you exactly where you're from and just throw it out there like that, but um, I never thought that I would be friends with people all over the world, and the game has provided that to me, and I feel like it's because I've always tried to carry myself with respect. Like I never changed my name when people in the crew would do that to try to escape certain things, or like I'm glad that I ended up in Martyrs when I did, because like whenever I got into the community, Augur and their club was the Badlanders, right? And I prospected for them, and then by the time that I was about to be a full patch, they were talking about rebranding, and this was like the sixth time they had rebranded, and it was super abrasive to me, the prospect of taking, like, yeah, I hadn't worn the patch yet. I take a lot of great pride in the fact that the only full patch I've ever worn is a Martyrs patch, but like I couldn't have imagined if they were trying to rebrand once I had, because I'm a super loyal person, and I get fixated on certain things as far as maybe comfort goes, if I'm being honest. And like change is not my friend. Like it needs to be planned, and like there needs to be a good reason for me to want to do it. And I'm just glad that I got into the club when I did, because they were trying to get away from certain things that they did and stuff like that. So I definitely am glad that I got in when I did. But yeah, it makes it so much harder to get situations where I can go to an event with a club like the Striker MC and then be able to hear your all's experiences like that. Because if we weren't close enough with you guys to be at that 10-year event, then we wouldn't have, none of us would have been able to hear like your all's experiences and what the community means to you. And hearing you say some of the stuff that you did during that event was exactly why I have carried myself the way that I have so far in the community, because I don't want to miss out on that type of stuff. Yeah, a lot of clubs do suck and everything like that, but you're going to find those diamonds in the rough, and you won't be accepted by those people if you've started to act like the rest of the shitheads. So,
yeah, yeah, and I think, over the years as well, especially in, I speak more on my experiences more than, other SMC patches, but
for sure.
it's yeah, it's difficult to get out of that type of light, and definitely to go through, because a lot of the time, people, and we're fine with it, we do thrive to be, um, greasy and grimy and like do that type of stuff, because that's what we are, like we are a bunch of jokers, and we are a bunch of, people who like to have a bit of shit talk, and we're not going to take you serious, because if you haven't shown us that type of, respect or anything, then we're not going to take you serious, and I think that factors into a bunch of to be fair, it does factor into a bunch of beefs that we have, because a lot of people, they don't understand the community, they don't understand how long someone's been there, they don't understand, the ins and the outs and the relationships and the friendships and
Right.
that type of stuff, and they just think, oh, they're not the biggest, they might not be, the best shooters, they might, they're not this, they're not that, whatever. They make fun of this, they make fun of that, or they make jokes about this, they make jokes about that, and it's, at the end of the day, like Striker MC, we are who we are, and you just either like us or you don't.
Right.
And like going to events and going to, sit downs or meeting, new clubs, you just need to factor in, you need to get to know someone before you can share those experiences with, and especially,
Right.
to do with your matters. It was just one of those things where we are in that stage of, or in that type of way, that we have the balance between, we can joke, we can be serious, we can talk about some real stuff, we can talk about nothing, we can just chop it up and it'll be fine. And that type of relationship, that type of bond and stuff, is the healthiest way, that I truly do believe is the best. We're not here to, like, impress anyone, because in our mentalities, and I think it should be the same for a lot of other clubs, maybe they do have the mentality, but you know, it's just whether you show it or not. In
Right.
my mentality, and you know, you say the same for definite, you know, speaking into the universe, striker MC to me is the best MC.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all in that mentality in striker MC, because you know, as a lot of people I feel like would agree with, we run so differently to the outlook that people may have on us. You know, if
I'll
you go
say
to the
that that's very
website and you
true.
see our, yeah, you know, like you yourself, you know, you mentioned to me the other day, and you know, I've had other clubs and kind of people, you know, past prospects or past patches, and you know, they've always come back and they've always kind of said, you know, this club, this new club I've joined doesn't run the same. Can I come back? And it's a no. You know, like once you're here, you're here. You
Yeah.
know,
It should be
and
like that. Yeah.
exactly. And it's
Taking
one
off
of
the
those
patch
ones
is
where
disrespecting the patch, and that's something that we're not okay with at Martyrs.
exactly, like if you can take off a patch and you can leave it behind, then you know
You
you
might as
have,
well take
you
it off and piss
realistically
on it.
have, yeah, you have no right to put that patch back on because you've left it behind.
Yeah, I agree fully, 100%.
But yeah, you know, like we run so differently to other clubs, and you know, I'm sure that, you know, loads of different clubs could probably, you know, on surface level, again, you know, I say, you know, they're a bunch of jokers, they joke about this or they make fun of that, and you know, they say some stuff off the wall and stuff, but that's just our humor. That's just what makes us Striker MC, and that's our reputation that we've built up, you know, and we are proud of it. You know, we're a very proud club, because there's only one type of club that you're going to get, and we are that. You know, we're different from, you know, these other people who, you know, you have a majority of people who are like, we're content. A lot of people, you know, we're shooters, or we're this or we're that, and you very rarely find people who are so out of the norm that, you know, the club. I suppose clubs can't really help but like not like that, because they're not in the norm. They don't really
Yeah,
fit into a category, and that's what we kind of are proud of. There's only one striker MC,
very
and that's
true, yeah.
us. You take us or you leave us. You know, it's one of those ones.
Yeah,
And
you're gonna have to.
yeah, for sure. You know, like again, as long as we're good, that's it. You know, and I think a lot of clubs need to start doing that a bit more. You know, obviously
Very true.
you have your friends, but your friends don't work if your club's not working.
Yeah, very, very true.
That's why, you know, a lot of our internal stuff is kept internal. A lot of our, you know, our systems, a lot of how our structure is, a lot of the respect that comes within Striker MC, because you know, even in being in parties with us, and you know, we're calling each other anything that
Oh
we
yeah,
want and stuff, you know, but it comes with respect. We're all about that level of understanding each other, understanding our boundaries, understanding our rules, our bylaws, our structures, our systems, our everything, that we're set,
oh
you know.
yeah,
And it's just so easy to run a club when everyone is on that same level of respect, that same level of, well, this happens, this happens, this happens, we have this in place, this in place, this in place, this in place, because we've got so much stuff to make sure that all of our members have equal rights, all of our members are respected, all of our members, you know, have a percentage of the club, that we don't need to worry. And I think that's one of the biggest things that plays into us, is that we don't need to worry about what other people think, or what other people want us to do, or how to act, or anything like that, because we're always going to be here. And I know that a lot of clubs out there, I'm sure that you can share this type of experience so far, is a lot of people, they kind of join for their members, or they stay for the member. You
right.
know, like if you have a club and like two guys are like, you know, maybe they joined different times, maybe they met in the club, maybe this, maybe that, whatever, you know, they're best friends, one of them leaves and then the other one either slacks or leaves too,
Right, yeah. Oh yeah, it
you know.
happens.
But with Striker MC, that's not it. For me, and a lot of the other patches would agree, if not all of them. No, I would say all of them. We're here for the club. We're here for what it stands for. We're not here for, you know, I would say easily, you know, there's a few people in Striker MC I've known a long time, you know. For one, to say, I've known Creed since I was 14. He was actually in the Vagos, the first ever MC that I was in.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, he was actually there.
I like Creed a lot, by the way. Creed's a cool dude.
Yeah, for sure. Like, Creed is definitely one of our, you know, most prominent members, and everyone kind of knows him. But like, yeah, I've known Creed since I was 14. You know, that's, even that in itself, that's 10 years. You know, and if Creed left, you know, I know you'd never would, but even if he left, I'm still here. And I think that's a lot of, that's the type of energy and that's the type of commitment that people need, and especially for, you know, to keep on his name, Creed's name. He's one of the oldest members in Striker MC, and you know, he has said many a times to Striker and to other clubs, you know, it doesn't matter whether anyone leaves, he's staying there. And I think a lot of other people in Striker MC is the same. You know, we'll never, you know, go back to what we've talked about previously, and you know, about shutting down, rebranding, all this and that.
Right.
We'll never do that. As there's always going to be one person at least to keep hold of this patch.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's the same for Martyrs. We try to, not try to. I absolutely make sure that before I'm okay with voting for someone to get their patch, their full patch, and be like a legit member of the club, that's the type of mentality that I want to see from them, is that they really respect the club and the patch more than anything at the end of the day. Like, and I try to gauge whether or not their actions and the way that they approach things like speaks to that. Like, if they're trying to show favoritism towards one person over the greater decision for the club or something like that, then I'm not throwing them my vote. It's like you're gonna develop stronger relationships with certain people and stuff like that, but like, that's how, if it's not managed properly, that's how you're gonna end up having club splits, and then like a war start because of it. Maybe not necessarily, but it could. And I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah, we've been through, you know, that type of situation before, and you know, like, it's been handled and stuff like that. You know, we've had people, you know, to go on like the whole recruiting topic of things. I think it's hard to get into certain clubs nowadays, but I say that, but I feel like a lot of people, they just kind of, you know, they keep to a time frame, and regardless of how, you know, that prospect is doing, depending on, you know, whatever club does it, you know, support around prospect, whatever they want to do,
yeah,
as long as that person like does their time, they just kind of like, you're in now.
Yeah, definitely not over here.
You know, it's definitely
all those posters you see where it's like 1 week hang around, 2 weeks prospect. No, definitely not.
No,
we'll see.
No.
Your attitude and diligence will determine whether or not you get a patch in this club.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, like, I think when people put their posters up of 2 weeks there, 2 weeks there, a week there, you know, whatever it might be, I feel like they're not really reading the fine print, or at least the clubs are not like enforcing a little bit more high standard, because I think they just go for like, you know, members, growth type thing.
Yeah, they want clout, like a lot of people do these days.
Yeah,
when it comes to anything.
And you know, I got to take my hat off to certain clubs, because, you know, I say that we've been here 10 years, but there's you know, there are other clubs out there that have lasted, you know, so many years, and they've only got like 10 guys. But it's because those clubs are going for the quality of member rather than the quantity. And you know, for Striker MC, you know, we do the same, and I know it's the same for you guys as well. You know, we don't want someone to come in and just, you know, be what's the word? Be toxic, I suppose. Yeah, just be bad for the club. You know, why would we want, you know, what we've built up to now be tainted by someone who's not fully understanding, who doesn't have love for the club, for anything like that, you know? And like for us, we give, you know, it's a week there, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, but we always say, you know, in parties with our recruits, we always say it's a minimum. It's a minimum, it's a minimum, it's a minimum, and that key word is minimum.
Yeah.
Because it can go on for so much longer. Like for me, you know, to go back to like the recruitment stuff for me, you know, around 12 weeks, that was way longer. That was way longer than the process back then. You know, I was like, yeah, I think I was like 8 weeks over. I was like, you know, what am I doing? What am I proving? You know, like I was. But it's just one of those things, you know, like you gotta show that commitment. You got to show that you're down for the club. You know, like
For sure.
it would be so stupid. And you know, a lot of clubs do this. You know, they think that they can get to know someone, you know, in a month, and you can't get to
Definitely
know
not.
someone, especially over the internet. You know, because we got to remember, you know, we're like a vast majority of clubs. You know, like people don't know what you look like.
Yeah, definitely.
People,
not.
you know, they don't know.
Scarlet
know
looks
your lives,
like
they don't
what's
know
in front of
this.
me right now, in my head.
Yeah.
You know, so definitely get that.
Yeah, I actually got white hair and I wear face paint every single day. It actually takes me 3 hours to apply before work every day.
Yeah, I wear sunglasses at all times myself, and a gator mask on that has a skull. My
Yeah,
hair's totally
the
slicked
sunglasses
back
to
and
go to
perfect
sleep.
like this too all the time.
But yeah, you know, like people go off the minimum, but it's not. You know, it's the minimum until you're proven worthy. You know, because
For sure.
you know, these clubs who are, you know, we've got this amount of members, we got this member, we got this member, because he's, you know, people say, you know, people throw around words so you know, willy-nilly,
Hmm.
so loosely, like, oh, he's committed. Well, what has he done?
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, he's been here a month. That's not commitment.
Well,
You know,
anybody
people
can
stay
do
in
that,
a-
especially on a video
Exactly,
game, a
like-
couple hours out of the day.
people will stay in a job for 4 years and
And
hate every
hate it.
day.
Yeah, hate everybody
Yeah.
there and all that. So
They're not committed. They just want money, and it's the same for this. They're not committed. They just want a patch.
yeah, they just want to be the big dogs with like whatever persona or like reputation that this club they're trying to get into has.
Exactly. Like, I quite enjoy when people do the you know, you kind of see in like smaller clubs, you know, like if someone who has already kind of like got a name for themselves, who's kind of like a little crew hopper, or you know, being around the community, or like has got clout, you know, they kind of like give them the easiest path to get a patch because they can shoot, or because they've got clout, or because they've got connections, and it's like you're being so disrespectful to your own patch and your own club that like you're not even realizing. You're not even realizing how disrespectful you are to your own patch by
And that
doing
can create
that
so
type of
many
stuff.
huge issues that you really don't want to have within your club doing stuff like that.
Yeah, because realistically, all it takes is one bad egg to ruin the bunch.
It really does. It's super true.
Like these clubs who start up, you know, and I feel like, you know, every club, or at least every member of the MC community by this point, have had the experience of one person does one bad move and it's it puts a shadow over the club, and if you don't deal with it, in a swift manner,
Hmm.
then you get labeled, or you
Oh
get,
yeah.
viewed differently.
Or
But,
it could be
people
worse with
don't.
other things, like it's gonna snowball in some way or another.
Exactly, it goes on to, if you recruit someone, just off the basis of you want more members, or you've made your recruitment process easy, or they're a shooter, they got clout, or they're this or whatever. All it takes is that member to go in, be there for 2 weeks, completely ruin the club reputation, or completely change everything, and then bounce to go somewhere else, and then
Hmm.
you're there to pick up the pieces, and it causes clubs to close down. It causes
Yeah, because
clubs to rebrand.
they
It
could
causes,
just
yeah,
make
like,
another account and change their name,
exactly.
just disappear.
That happens all the time. You notice it all the time. The people,
Oh yeah,
you know,
I've seen it
if
many
you're start,
times. I've only been around for a year and a half tops in the community of MCs itself, and I've seen it many times. I
yeah,
can
like you
imagine
get
how many times y'all have seen it.
people, they start clubs off the basis of something, and their recruitment process goes with whatever their basis is. We've had to tell you another story, right? A couple of months ago, um, maybe you knew, or maybe you'll remember the guys I could be about to talk about now. I won't say their names. They're really not that important.
Right.
But it just goes to show, like, again, with the whole beef thing, to do with like the silliness of things in the recruitment process and all this and that, right? We had a couple of guys who were prospects for us, and these guys, they were doing, they were doing good, and like people liked them and stuff like that. But all it does is, with us, as anyone would know, again, to go through like the whole thing of respect with each other and stuff like that, because we understand each other, we've been friends for a long time. If another club, or a random, or prospect, or whoever you may be, that you're not one of us, or at least to that understanding, that respect level, says something out of pocket, or says something where you have no right to say, um,
Yeah.
you know, things get different. And if you've been in parties with us, or at least been on the other end of the shit talk, you will know things are different.
Oh yeah.
It's not jokes and laughs. It's we're there to get you angry. We're there to
Right.
make sure that that we don't like you, type thing.
Oh yeah.
And
I've seen you all. I've seen that happen with other people who've joined the party while I was in there. Like it's all fun and jokes and having a blast, and then these people get in there and you can tell it's different. Like it sounds similar in a couple ways, but you can tell whenever you're trying to embarrass somebody or make them uncomfortable.
yeah, it's a complete switch up. And these guys, they were going good, like they were alright. And all it took was a little bit of pressure, as everyone should, pressure their prospects. Like a lot of people, they punish their prospects, make them go for a run or a swim around the map, or you dress them silly, or
Run up chili hat
anything
in
like
their
that.
skivvies. I like doing
Exactly.
that.
It's a bit of hazing. It's making sure that you're a prospect and you should know. And it was the same for these guys. And the one guy completely crashed out. And this guy was like, I think he was like 40 something.
Oh
And you
man.
would think, like, I get it. It's kind of on that spectrum of, you're a fully grown man and stuff like that. And maybe you shouldn't be listening to a bunch of young people, say this type of stuff or whatever. But like, at the end of the day, you join a party and stuff like that, and you say, yeah, I'm into MCs, I know the culture, I used to hang around with real MC and all this and that, and you give him a little bit of pressure, and this guy cracks, and he ended up leaving. And he brought a couple of people with him, and his like whole recruitment process was literally like, I'm pretty sure it was like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
because he wanted those numbers, and one of the guys who was there like completely crashed out. He was so angry, and we were there. We actually joined the party with him, and we were making jokes about their MC name, because their MC name was it was just so, it was just silly. It was just, you know, it was the same thing you always get. You know, MC names nowadays are like demonic this, reapers this, Satan this, devils this, and it's like, oh mate, you know, like hellhounds this, like, oh, all right. And it's, you know, it's so something silly, and we were making a joke out of it, and this guy came back and screaming to the top of his lungs, I'm gonna make sure the Striker MC shut down. I'm gonna make it my life's work to make sure that you guys are not up in the next month. And yeah, I think that was a couple of months ago.
Now,
so yeah, I don't think he did a good job.
He probably tried his damnedest, but you know, it's not gonna work with people like you guys. So
No, and like people and their whole recruitment thing, and their, you know, their whole like basis. You know, this guy started the club up on the basis of, I'm gonna take down Striker MC. I'm gonna be better than another club. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do. Like, you shouldn't start a club off the basis of something so silly, because it's gonna reflect upon, like, every aspect of your club. Because realistically, like, if you know, sometimes it works. Sometimes, I'm gonna start a club up and base it off riding and events. That's a good thing. Yeah, sure. You know, like, pursue that. But if you're basing it off of, I'm gonna be the most notorious, I'm gonna take down this club, I'm gonna do that, you're not gonna work. You're gonna last 3 weeks maximum, and then you're just gonna shut down. You're gonna go play Roblox or something.
You're not gonna get the reaction from most people that, like, the reaction you think you're gonna get.
Yeah, like, you're not gonna get, you know, the townsfolk to pick up their torches and pitchforks to come to battle with you. You know, like, you're not gonna get that.
Most people are gonna be like, "Who are you?"
Yeah, like
even like some of your all's enemies, and like vice versa with our enemies and stuff. If someone was to do that, even some of those people would be like, "Who are you?" Like,
it's just so silly, like, what people like base their club off. And I think, you know, it comes to balance again. You know, like, everything to do with club culture, it needs to be a balance. You can't just be shooters.
True.
You can't just be riding. You can't just be events. You need a little bit of everything, because you're catering to a certain group, and you know, it's never good. Like for us in Striker, we, you know, and I hold my hand up to this, you know, and I think everyone can agree. You know, we do everything. We do, you know, we do events. You know, we go to events. We plan our own events. You know, and a lot of effort goes into that.
Back because of difficulties. Get back to the conversation. Do you remember exactly where we were at?
I don't, to be honest.
Me neither. Well, we'll just go to the next topic that I was wanting to maybe start to wrap up with, if anything. I was wanting to get your opinion on what are your thoughts on how you want the club to progress, or maybe like what you want to see from the community as far as whenever GTA 6 comes out. And like, I just want to get your opinion on all of that type of stuff. I know it's kind of an open-ended question, but hopefully that's enough for you to go off of.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think, especially, you know, it being at the time of recording, a couple of days after that huge,
the news,
heartbreaking thing,
the gut punch,
of it being delayed. Yeah. You know, people said, you know, a fall of this year, you know, is not really realistic. You know, there was everyone in high hopes that it was, since it's been such a long time for the you know, the first trailer, and then everything.
Yeah, they hadn't put out anything since it's been over a year since the first trailer and all of that stuff. So, and they haven't put a single thing out in that time.
Yeah,
they haven't even mentioned.
Yeah.
They haven't made one single post or mentioning of GTA 6 since that first trailer over a year ago now.
Yeah, nothing. And if you go onto their website as well, it still says fall 2025. They haven't even updated it.
Oh yeah,
So
I guarantee you.
yeah,
Just add a little bit
um,
extra sting.
yeah. But you know, like, because you know, even though like it might seem like you know it's a year, you know, realistically, if it was fall, then it's a 6 month delay, which is still not good.
Yeah.
But you know, if they I think everyone can agree, you know, regardless of whether you're, you know, a part of a club or whether you just like GTA, you know, like this needs to be perfection. You know,
For
I
sure.
think for just to go on to like Rockstar and GTA in general, I think they need to do everything they can to please the community as a
Yeah.
whole, and then you know the sub communities that are there, you know, like MC communities, mafias, militaries, and whatever else you want to be in. So, you know, as long as it comes out and you know everyone's happy, you know, fair enough. You know,
Yeah,
I
same.
think they've got to be able to do more than what they've done on this game, you know, for definite.
Absolutely.
But as far as you know, progression and stuff, personally, I think that it's quite a broad thing to say, because I know it's not realistic. I'm hoping that it will be, and I'm hoping that you know a lot of clubs kind of are in the same mentality. But from what we know, from what you know, conspiracy theories or speculations, and then you know from the leaks that are still kind of out there. You know, if you find them on YouTube or Reddit or you know something like that. Um, I would like you know the community as a whole, um, every community, every club, crew, whatever you're in, to go more into the realism of things. Like I would like more immersion into things. You know, like I think from the leaks, there was a few, and obviously from Red Dead about their weapon system and you know like their fist fight and stuff. It's more cinematic. It's more grounded. You know, there's
Yeah.
only like two primaries and you know a sidearm and I would like the community and you know Striker to go more into that type of aspect
Yeah.
of you know the type of role play the you know clubs and stuff do, because no matter what you say, you know, about role play and whatever else like that, you know, if you're a part of a club, you're role playing a biker. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, you're a role player. You know what I'm saying? You know, we're
For
all
sure.
you can be, you know, 16, you're a role player. You can be, you know, 24, you're a role player. You could be 30, you could be 40, you could, you know, even some people in the community, you know, you could be touching 50. You're role
Right.
playing as a biker. You know, we're all doing the same thing. So I think, yeah, I would like to go more that path of things. I feel like the whole aesthetic would just be a way better thing, you know, like I think to myself, you know, like if the leaks are real and if they go like from the Red Dead type of thing, and like how cool would it kind of be to, you know, have a meetup or like, you know, a hangout place and stuff like that. You know, you see a bunch of guys with like holsters and you're not seeing, you're not in that worry that, you know, with two buttons and a
They're
quick
gonna hit
swipe
you with an
you're gonna
RPG.
get RPG. Yeah, yeah.
Same. I'm really looking forward to the prospect of having just two primaries, like you said. Is what I think that I've seen as well from the leaks. That would be amazing. I try to keep my weapon wheel as minimal as possible as it is, and yeah, it would just be nice to know that everybody else is capped off at, especially for events and stuff like that. They're capped off at only having a couple weapons as well.
Exactly. Like I think, yeah, like the whole immersion thing is something that like I'm gonna try and strive for, because you know, as a lot of people will know, you know, if you look on videos or if you watch this and you play 5M, they've got these different type of animations where you know you pull out a gun from you know you know the back of your trousers, like the back of your
Yeah,
pants, and like that type of stuff. You know, how cool would it be if you know you're talking to someone, hanging out, and stuff like that. You know, all of a sudden, you know, like someone goes behind their back or like goes inside of their jacket or their cut and pulls something, and like you know, it would just feel so much different, and it would take the MCU community, especially since we're all here, to like just that next level that I think that, you know, a lot of people, you know, whether they be like 99 or 1% or shooters, or, you know, like do their dirty tricks, or, you know, whatever you want to do, it would just take that whole aspect and like get rid of it, because it's just a bunch of guys, you know, the baseline pistols, or, you know, like maybe, you know, like an automatic pistol, or, you know, like an AP, or like maybe an Uzi you could fit in, you know, somewhere. Or it would just take it, like, all of that type of toxicness, all that type of divide within the MC community, and the different rules and everything, to get everyone on the same page. And it would just bring a whole different aspect to things. And for me as well, like, I want to go more into the again, keeping into the aesthetic of MCs, keeping into the immersion of things, and yeah, just go down this like realistic type of roleplay path. Because I think, you know, as much as we, you know, we ride bikes, as much as we wear our cuts, as much as, you know, we keep in the guidelines of what an MC is supposed to look like and act and stuff like that, it takes away, you know, you're riding with your boys, or, you know, you're riding with your club, and you see, you know, like a hot pink jet fly over you.
Yeah, I know. With
you
Vinny's
know, like,
wheels on it.
yeah, and you see, like, you know, like 4 flying bikes pass over you, and it takes away, you know, it takes away from like what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build, what we're trying to stand for, and everything like that, you know. And
For me,
like, doing that type of thing,
for me in itself, it takes away from the I guess the reason that I love GTA Online so much as it is. It's like a way to escape and do certain things that you would like to do in real life, but you can't really. Like, you can't like, you're pretty much an idiot if you get on your bike without a helmet and just drive as fast as you can in the middle of oncoming traffic. I can do that in GTA, and it's fun and all that type of stuff. But then you got all these people that are pulling an alien gun out of their pocket, and they look like they're stormtroopers shooting across 300 yards with a Gatling gun that has lasers coming out of it, and then you have somebody trying to blow you up with a flying bicycle. And yeah, it's all that like unrealistic stuff. Is, I get why they did it to a certain extent, because a lot of the online community itself was getting bored with the game, and they wanted things to be easier as far as like collecting crates for your businesses. So a lot of people love the Oppressor Mark II because of that, and I understand. I use it myself every now and then in an invite if I'm trying, which I don't really much anymore, because I don't need any money in the game. So grinding money isn't really my thing anymore. I'm super bored of it. So for me, I just like to get on my bike and ride with the dudes and other clubs and stuff like that. And if we can get back to as much realism as possible, at least at the beginning of the game for a few years, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm hoping that like Rockstar have like really taken into account, you know, like how the community's kind of gone, and how their, you know, their fan base has kind of reacted to things. And because they've had to make changes, you know, that I think that's why they implemented, you know, you could sell your product in invite onlys, because they realized that it was almost impossible to do that, because
of other things that they put in the game that makes it impossibly,
you know, like,
easy to blow people's stuff up.
Especially with like the rates of like how things fill up, you know, like you spend 10 hours waiting on your stuff to fill up, and all it takes is less than a minute for, you know, some kid to come over with a repressor and blow it up. Like, you've just wasted 10 hours, which, you know, is a back and forth type of argument of, you know, like they do it because, you know, people want it, or they do it because, you know, it gets, you know, their servers full up and it gets people playing the game, and, you know, for longer and whatever else. But, you know, the fans make the game, and I feel like Rockstar, to be fair, I don't think they could really take the same approach again, realistically. Like, they might, but
Hopefully not.
I feel like with this one, and I go into like a little bit of like, my hopes, my dreams when it comes to GTA 6. Like, go into like more like conspiracy theories and what I feel, and I'm kind of in the way of thinking that the last couple of updates that we've had, it'd be the auto shop, and then the salvage yard, and then the bounty hunter business. They've all kind of been legitimate type of jobs. So I'm
Right.
hoping that because Rockstar have done that, that they're kind of like testing the water when it comes to, kind of like a life type of aspect of GTA. Obviously, GTA is a criminal game. Like, you're always going to be stealing
Yeah.
or shooting or robbing, or you're always going to be doing something like that. But because they've kind of like taken that type of thing and they've implemented it into the game, tested the waters, seen how people react, giving them that type of life, hint, because obviously 5M was such a big thing to do with role playing, and then obviously, if people didn't know, they should know, Rockstar bought 5M,
Right.
and they're using, they obviously they're using that type of stuff to, to get ideas. They're using that type of stuff to see what people like, because they become such a big market of people, doing so much more. And 5M is roleplay. 5M is things that we can't get on base game. Like for the MC community, it's custom bikes, different bikes. It's flashes on your cut, your jacket. It's the hairstyles. It's rings. It's so much more. So I'm hoping that Rockstar doing that, it's not so much of like a money making thing for them. It's so much as giving back to obviously their loyal fans and people who are loyal to GTA, been playing it for the past 13 years. That they're going to be giving more. And I feel like, going on the basis of these updates and stuff, given, if we believe in the leaks that the obviously came out, seeing the type of gameplay that they've done through the leaks, seeing, like maybe you could pick up some stuff in the trailer. Obviously, it was a cinematic one, so it didn't really show much. You can't really show anything that's cinematic when it comes to gameplay, obviously. But like, given like the locations, the way they've done things, I really, 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 really doubt, and I really hope that they wouldn't implement, all this alien stuff into it, because it seems so much more realistic so far, so much more grounded. But I really do hope that they stay with that. A big
Same.
thing that I know that like a lot of people are concerned about when it comes to 6 is like our cuts, like what we're going to be presented with as a community.
Yeah. For
First
real.
off, like, are they
Surely to
going to go
God they give us
straight into
the opportunity to wear cuts and patches on it and all that.
exactly? And it's one of those things of, I'm hoping that it being such a brand new game, and being so long, that they don't go to what's comfortable, in their storytelling or in their game aspects. As a lot of things, as people could probably say, is recycled in, as we can get onto the topic of, maybe that's best for a different time. But just to talk about it is, lightly, GTA 5 has a lot of recycled stuff from other GTAs. Obviously, like the whole thing of San Andreas and Grove Street, the families, the Ballers, the Vagos, all that came from.
Yeah. They changed it up a
GTA
little
San
bit,
Andreas.
but I think
They
it was
changed
in
it
a
a
way
little
that,
bit.
that nobody wanted. Like, I think everybody was loyal to Grove Street to a certain extent because of GTA San Andreas, and then in this game they pretty much made it seem like the Ballers won that war, and so
Yeah, like they completely switched it up, and obviously, as people would remember, the Lost MC, the uncanny, the MC that has millions and millions and millions and trillions of members. Apparently,
yeah,
when they first came out in Lost and Damned for GTA 4, and they were kind of there back and forth within the GTA 4 story, and and all that type of stuff, and they came back, and they were such a prominent thing, and it was it's recycled stuff. And I feel like with certain things, I think with this GTA 5 was because this is like the biggest, GTA Online is the biggest aspect that not a lot of games have. Well, I don't think any other game that's on console. I say on console because PC have loads of different things that are similar to this, and have different games that they have access to. But like GTA Online, even with 5M taken into that aspect for PC, there is nothing else like it. So obviously they had to trial and error.
There's something for everybody in this game, for sure.
Yeah, they had to cater to like so many different audiences, because like nothing, like no game is like this. No game is has this wide a variety of person that plays it.
Very true.
So I think like, and again, hoping and praying and dreaming and begging Rockstar that they really do cater to communities and not just your average Joe.
Right.
When it comes to things, and I feel like again, to finally go back to what I wanted to say as well, was with the map and the design of the map, I couldn't imagine there to be, oppressors making a comeback. I couldn't imagine there, being orbital cannons coming back and all that type of stuff coming back, because, I think, with such grounded gameplay leaks, and hopefully with the ambition that Rockstar want to do something a little bit more with 5M and life stuff, I really don't think those things will make a comeback. I think they know, because I think a lot of people do forget, like like certain tweaks that they've made because the community wants it.
That's why the biker update even happened, just because you guys kept asking for it, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, like the whole reason why the biker DLC came out was because a petition came out, and clubs were signing up left, right, and center to get this done, and it came out, and they did it. So I think and I'm sure Rockstar are definitely not gonna forget about that.
Surely not.
So
they're gonna have the same exact situation on their hands if they don't preemptively try to take care of those things, because there's no way that there won't be a flood of all the original people that were in clubs that no longer play, as well as new players wanting to do that, and maybe have just like caught a glimpse of it in this game, and they're waiting for GTA 6 to come out to get into it. There's no way that they're gonna be able to get past another petition if it's needed. Like people will definitely band together and make sure that it happens again. So it'd be better for them if they just did it now, like at the outset of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are kind of in that boat of all we have is speculation, but if the map is going to be twice the size, then maybe lobbies are going to be potentially bigger, twice the size, maybe even more than we're kind of expecting, because even on this map, 30 players in a lobby, it takes not a long time, but a noticeable amount of time to get from the city to Pluto Bay, and that being twice the size. Like I'm hoping that they keep grounded in their type of approach, as again using the leaks for majority of our speculation. There's a possibility of using, especially being Florida. If you do your, if people live in Florida, or if people do their research, a lot of YouTubers are doing it, a lot of articles are out there, to give you updates. Do your own. Like Florida is known to be, like it's all flat ground. Like there's no mountains, there's no this, there's no that. So obviously, they have the potential of like changing that in certain areas. We have the, I think it's I forgot this is like GTA mapping project. I forgot who does it. But if you look up on Google, like they're building it and stuff like that, and they're trying to fill in the blanks and whatever else from the trailers, doing a really like for all of us GTA heads who are waiting for that next game, like those types of people are like trying their best to kind of like update as best they can and whatever else. But it being Florida, you got already in the trailer, you've got like a muddy area, you've got obviously like little outskirts, you've got lower income areas, you've got the strip, you've got the beach, you've got Gated Keys as it's in GTA 6.
Right.
The only worry is because it's twice the size, like they could implement something that makes getting around the map easier. But personally,
a helicopter.
yeah, like I'm hoping they just keep to, well, again, to go on what I was about to say was, I'm pretty sure Florida, unless I'm mistaken, which I'm sure that one of the someone from America will probably correct me on, but I'm pretty sure that Florida has like a huge tram line. I'm pretty sure that they have. I think I read something, or maybe someone told me something. Well, I think Florida has like quite a big tram line or like a railing system. So I'm hoping
I've
like
been there myself, so I wouldn't know for sure.
Yeah, I might have to double check that. I'm pretty sure someone told me that that's the thing when they live in Florida, that they do have like quite an extensive railing system out there, or tram or train or whatever it is, to get around the city and stuff like that. So I'm hoping they use like those type of aspects. To,
realistic ways to travel quickly.
Yeah, realistic ways to do it, and like I wouldn't mind, like, cause personally, like I would rather like be stuck in like a loading screen for like 3 minutes to get from one side of the map to the other, rather than see someone on a flying bike pass over me.
Yeah, same.
Like
I feel like that the oppressor would also like not only displease a lot of people in the game, but it would also take away from like the actual fulfillment of discovering new things in the game. Like as far as like things you've never seen in the game, it's going to be so much easier to find those types of things if there's something like an oppressor in the game. And surely to God, they're going to try to protect that as much as possible. I think Rockstar's always prided themselves on Easter eggs and stuff like that hidden within the game. And like there's Easter eggs in the game that I'm pretty sure that they've come out with and said that nobody's ever found before. So, and that's saying something, because millions and millions of people play this game to this day, and it's 12 years old. So.
Exactly, like the exploration for me, and I think a lot of people would agree that this is what's going to happen. Especially in Striker MC, we've already, a few of us already planned out our nights of that midnight launch of, and then, this is a big thing as well. That final ride around the city. So
sure.
As soon as that game is downloaded, and people might play the story mode a bit, or people might play the first little epilogue, and then go on their adventures around to see what's new and stuff like that. But that exploring aspect is going to be so refreshing, and I think that's going to be the funnest part about maybe the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks until we get online, of people going around finding what they can, sharing it with people, and even their ideas for their clubhouse locations, even ideas for hangout spots, even those types of things, is going to be like a real booster to a lot of the people in these organized crews and clubs, even in like any community, I think, out there. These aspects of what they got to bring are going to be huge too, because I'm not too sure, again, all speculation because nothing has been confirmed, but going through articles and posts and whatever we can find to do with GTA 6, I'm pretty sure it was like, I think it was like 70%, maybe more, maybe less, something like that, of buildings enterable. Even that, because obviously on 5, nothing is enterable, realistically. I think we've got the vanilla unicorn, Yellowjack and like
and businesses and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, businesses
you
and
can't go get a
shops like
taco in the game or a burger anymore, which is crazy.
exactly.
You can't
Like
eat anything besides snacks.
can't
So
do anything. Even now, this new system that they've introduced with the weapon wheel, like you're not even doing the animation of you eating a chocolate bar
oh
anymore.
yeah,
You know, like, but again, like to go on that, the business side of things, like what I want, 100%. I don't think it's, but I would like a gas system to do with vehicles.
same. It would be so awesome to go on a long ride and actually have to stop and fill up. That would be
Exactly,
so
like
awesome.
it would be such a game. It would be revolutionary
Oh
because
yeah,
obviously, like there are games out there that do that system, but like keeping in the Take-Two and the Rockstar stuff, like Mafia 2 had that system. They had a gas thing. It
right.
didn't really matter that much because like every car was basically full and you didn't really drive around that much unless
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know you had
It was
nothing to
still
do.
cool
Or
though.
yeah, it was still cool to go to a thing and it actually happened. And if you didn't pay, you got the cops on you
Yeah,
and that type
yeah.
of thing. Like different aspects. And then obviously with the enterable buildings, to go back to other games, GTA 4,
Yeah, GTA
you
4
had
itself, you could go into
you
all
had
kinds of stuff.
you had bowling, you had restaurants, you had like
Right.
internet cafes, and you had those types of things that you could go into, and then go into San Andreas. You had like gyms. You had
Yeah.
even in you had go into Burger Shot and Clockenbell, and you had these restaurants and the gyms and bowling, and like you had so much more that I'm hoping they bring back and have those aspects in online, because obviously like that difference, I feel as if personally like this delay has come not because of the story mode, but I feel like it's come because of the online. I feel like I personally hope that it is because of the online, because they're trying to implement so much
Right.
and give back to players so much, because again, to like keep into like what I want and what I hope, I've spoken to strikers about it, and we're all relatively on the same page and about certain aspects of what we want to do and the type of line we want to go through, of keeping on that type of immersion and that realism and that type of thing, hopefully, if we can, rather than just like shoot this, shoot that, blow up this, blow up whatever else. Like my whole thing is like, I feel as if like getting on the game, having to fill up my bike, then popping down to the gym, then going for food at a restaurant, or like
Sure.
a Waffle House like in the leagues, and then like going on a ride, or like those things, rather than get on the game, because I think everyone can agree, getting on the game now, I think the only thing that everyone probably does as soon as they get on the game is go up to the casino and get their free wheel spin, and then it's
That's the
just
thing, yeah.
do nothing else. Yeah,
I
like
mess with
having
my
that type
acid
of
lab
routine.
just because I like doing that business because it's so passive. But that's that and the casino's prize ride will. I do that every time.
Exactly, like
And then there's not
I
much
know
else to do after that.
yeah, like I literally, I get on the game, I go for my wheel spin, and like I'm not, again, like the same as you, like I'm not really concerned about money, because I know nothing's really going to come out that I want or that I need,
Right.
and then I'm just kind of left to my own devices. I just go for a ride, or if someone tries to shoot me, then a bit of a skirmish or whatever. But like going on GTA 6 online, and like getting on, and like a little counter comes up and says, you're I don't know, you're hungry, you need to go and replenish, and you
You're starting to
actually
lose
go and
muscle
eat
or
something.
something.
Yeah, you're starting to lose muscle, you have to go to the gym. Or you can choose these different type of like lifestyles where because again in Red Dead, if you overate, you would
Right.
become slower. If you
Yeah.
underate, you become weaker. And
Right.
have that type of like balance, because I know that like, especially in Striker MC, like we've joked around and we've talked about certain members we again, to say it again, we want to be grimy and greasy and stuff like that. So for us, we're like, we could possibly be in the mentality of being like fat hairy bikers, and going all around with like beer guts and long beards and all that type of stuff, and
That would be awesome
really playing
to be
into
able to do that,
you know.
if you want.
Exactly, and like I'm really hoping that they do bring that level of immersion and that level of role play to the game, because I think it's refreshing. I think a lot of games out there are just kind of like copy and paste a lot of the time. Like you've got so many games that are just the same thing, just different brand and like maybe different, slightly tweaked mechanics. And GTA is obviously that one game where everything's different. We can do pretty much anything that you realistically want. So yeah, GTA Online for 6 has got to be different.
Yeah, I'm fine with them pushing it back a year as long as the online aspect is nearly perfection. Obviously, there's going to be some bugs because they only have 1,000 people testing the game or so at the time, and then when the game comes out, there will literally be millions upon millions of people playing it. So there'll be people that find bugs that they weren't even able to see. But barring all that stuff, I want it to be as polished as possible, and I think mainly based off of their past games and stuff, that's what they want as well. And I'm definitely excited to see, and I'm definitely super excited to see how the community changes, and hopefully it'll get back down to the basics, and it won't be so like as nasty as it can be at times now at this point in the game's timeline. Can't wait to see what you guys do as far as the club. See if you guys do have a bunch of fat-bellied, long-haired bikers, and that would be awesome to be able to see all that type of stuff and see what people like. Once we get a little bit of time with the game, it'll be nice to see what people choose for themselves to go, like what kind of aesthetic that they're going to try to go for. Would be awesome.
Yeah, I think aesthetic-wise is going to be crazy, because obviously aesthetics at the moment, like I think you do get categorized into loads of things, like in the MC community, if you're jeans, boots and dirty cut, like you considered like an old school type biker. If you're a little bit up to date with like Chucks, or a lot, well, I wear them all the time, like Air Force and stuff like that. You're kind of like that modern. But then obviously, like, you've got different communities that do different things, and like you got mafias in their suits, military and their get-ups, street crews and their like face bandanas, or a lot of the time like they were in like white wife beaters and like all the tank tops and whatever else, socks and slides. But I think even into the aspect, a lot of the time, like even myself, the face paint, the white hair, like that's like tryhards. You see a guy with that type of stuff, and you think, oh, all right then, this guy's going to be rocket spamming me. So yeah, the
may or may not want to mess with that guy.
Huge thing. Yeah, exactly. Aesthetics are definitely a huge thing that I think. Yeah, I'm excited to see what people kind of do with it, and I think Rockstar are probably excited to see, what their players are actually able to do, because again, like Rockstar might, be the owners of the game, but the fans make the game.
Absolutely.
So,
as goes with fans when it comes to anything, music, movies, all of that.
Exactly. If the fans don't like you, you ain't making it.
Yeah, if those people don't have the fans in mind, it's not going to be successful. It's just impossible. So hopefully it goes good like that. To keep it relatively not a ridiculous time, I guess we could start wrapping it up now. I just want to thank you again, big time, from the bottom of my heart, trying to help me get this project off of the ground and participating in it. I really did want at least a Striker member to be part of the first podcast, and I'm glad that it was you, for sure. I felt like the conversation went really well.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like I'm really honored that you chose me as well to come along. I know that a lot of other people might not know, certain members within Striker MC, and I know that, you especially, like maybe, you got a different feeling from other people and stuff. Like, I'm just happy to be, yeah, like the first person that you had helping you with this. And yeah, for sure, like, any time that you or Matters need anything, I'm always there. So
Yeah, ditto. I definitely mean that. I don't say things that I don't mean. So I appreciate you saying that. And I mean the same thing. So hopefully it went good. I super appreciate you. You're the fucking man.
all good.
Oh yeah. I think that shit went good.
Yeah, that shit was
This is